Hello everybody and welcome back to the Little Quilter. I know I've not been doing a great job on doing videos lately, but there's just been so many things going on. So we are going to jump into the produce section. This is month 11 of the produce section and we're doing the pineapple block. This block was actually the reason that I wanted to do this quilt, was because the person that I'm giving it to has had a lot of pineapples and that type of stuff decoration wise my entire life. And so when I saw the quilt, I saw the pineapple and I was like, it immediately reminded me of this person, and I just felt like I had to make the quilt. Now, we are getting close to the end, so this is month 11. I actually have month 12 here, which as a sneak peek is going to be the blueberry block, and then we will have completed all of the blocks, and we'll also be starting to put this quilt together, which is super exciting. And yeah, so let's go ahead and, oh, and the other thing I just want to mention is the reason for the camera change is because my tripod, although standing, is completely broken. My daughter knocked it over and it broke. And so although it stands, the head does not stay up, it just falls down. And that's why it is sitting back there and we have a different angle here. So I will be purchasing a new one of those so that we can change back to our regularly scheduled view look. Okay. Anyways, let's jump into this. Okay, so I believe this is the weirdest block that we have done on the produce section. So I've got all of these pieces cut, and then, well, let me show you guys. So all of these pieces are cut and sewed, and then we're going to lay them out like this, and eventually, once I've got all of this sewn together, we're going to cut our block. So that's the interesting part of all of this. I'm not actually sure how these are going together, because obviously there is not an exact, I guess it's not an exact measurement here, so hopefully this is all right. I think something like this, maybe? Not actually totally sure. Something along those lines, and then we're going to cut a square out. So let me see if I can sew that together, but hopefully I've got this correct. Okay, not quite sure why this didn't make sense to me whenever I was laying it out, or why I didn't take note of it. And I just, well, I guess because the first two that I put together, they just kind of lined up on their own, these two. But if we're wanting to do that crisscross pattern, the way that I should have laid this layer is so that these two lined up. And sadly, I've done all four of these before I sort of looked at this and was like, Oh, that's what that means. So I'm going to have to unpick all of these and do this so that I can line it back up, which should be easy actually, because I can just lay this over and move this over so that it lines up, so that these seams, this seam and this seam line up. I'm not really sure why that didn't make sense the first time around, but that's a mess up, and we can fix it though, so that's easy enough. All right, that is so much better. Look at that. That's how it's supposed to be. Now, I believe the next step is to cut this, and I believe we cut it going this way. So we'll have to measure that out, and it is not a perfect square, so it's more of a rectangle. So we'll have to mark it. I might try marking this one just to make sure that I get it right, and then I can kind of use one as a template. You could also cut. So you could cut your square and use that as your template. Just kind of depends on what's easiest. So let's see if I can do this correctly, because I definitely only want to cut it once because I don't have enough scraps to do this again, and I certainly don't want to mess it up. Okay. All right, so I've got all of these blocks almost completed for the body of it, and I would say that this has been one of the more interesting blocks to do, sort of making all of these stripes and then cutting everything out. That's been really, really cool. And then I've just got to do these corner edges so that they'll have that more pineapple shape to it. And then the other part would be the actual floral part. The other part would be the floral part of this, and I really felt like I was going back in time to doing the legendary quilt, because it's very similar except that everything is thankfully the same size. So I've got all of these cut or sewn, and now I've just got to go through and cut and sew them so that we've got that beautiful view that we want. Okay, and then we'll be able to piece those together, and we'll be able to rock and roll these 4 blocks. So it's coming together pretty quickly. Once I kind of figured out the layout for all of this, and it did take a little bit of just making sure I was doing what I was supposed to. So pay attention to your layout. Make sure you know what color fabric you're doing, because it is a little bit tricky, especially with all of the colors being very similar. You know, I mean, this is yellow, this is yellow. You at least have the orange in there to give you a little bit of a different color to look at. But, you know, variations in yellow are always fun to try and figure out for a very specific pattern, okay? All right, everybody, they are completed, and aren't they fun? I think this is one of the funnest, I don't think that's a word, one of the most fun blocks that we have done in the produce section. I really enjoyed this new take on, you know, doing a block and then cutting it down. You know, it's very paper piecing type thing to me, of cutting things down and getting this really pretty shape just how you want it without having to make it exact. And honestly, whenever I saw this, I really did wonder how she had done this. And what a brilliant idea of sewing all these pieces and then cutting everything down. So, and then of course the top was lovely, kind of in the reverse. So if you think of it like the reverse Christmas trees that we did, well, they weren't Christmas trees, the reverse trees that we did for the legendary quilt. So that was fun, and then the fun little top. I'm really excited by this one right here. And as you can see, pretty decent. You know, that one's a bit off, but pretty decent on the corner pieces here. And I didn't really even think about those. There's a little thread there. I didn't even think about those until I was ironing, and I was like, oh, well, thankfully those came out nicely. Just kind of lined everything up and sewed. So if you guys are loving the pineapple design like me, then you should definitely check out the Produce Section quilt. This is the quilt by Elizabeth Hartman. Can't recommend it enough for just a fun quilt, okay? I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it really is a lot of fun to put together, and I think that it will just bring a smile to your face and something that you can bring out during the summer season when you're starting to put all of your, or even, you know, early spring when you're starting to plant all your gardens and you're waiting for all of that fruit to show up. You can just go ahead and pull out a quilt and, you know, contemplate your garden ideas while you sit under your produce quilt. So that's my opinion of this quilt, and we have got one more to do. It's going to be the really fun blueberries, which have these super cute sawtooth stars in them. I'm super excited about that. Also very nervous because sawtooth stars are not terribly difficult to make, but making them tiny and making them right is something that I have found to be quite difficult. I learned that in the barn star quilts. There were some small sawtooth stars, and I loved the look of the barn star quilt, and I loved how it set everything about it, but I really had a hard time with that. And, you know, I haven't done a quilt review on that because I still haven't put the binding on that one, so I need to do that. And the same for the kite and a square quilt. I haven't put the binding on it. It's just been crazy, y'all. It's been busy. So those are on my to-do lists. I promise I will do them. Oh, and the other thing that I've been working on, I'll show you here, is working on my scraps. And my daughter and her cousin, my niece, were over, and they were helping me pick out scraps to sew on this, I think it's a 2.5-inch strip. And so I've been having a lot of fun and getting rid of some scraps. You guys will notice some of these fabrics from some of the quilts that we've done recently on here in the past year. And so that has also taken a little bit of time, as well as just everything else that's going on. But I know that was a really long ending to this video, and I hope that all of you guys have enjoyed it. If you stuck to the end here, thank you so much. I'm going to do my best to get things rolling, but you know how summer is, and also house projects, they really do take time for me to get them done, since I work and enjoy quilting and all of that. So as always, have a wonderful day, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks.